The world of Vorin shimmered like a field of gemstones under its twin suns, each ray scattering across the crystal towers of the royal capital. It was the kind of planet that made humans stop and stare in awe, but Evan Hale, a quiet and modest man from Earth, walked through the palace halls without the slightest sign of nerves. His calm behavior confused nearly everyone who looked at him. They whispered behind him as he passed, not bothering to hide their thoughts. "That human is too quiet," one court minister muttered. "He walks like a servant, not like the Queen's chosen consort," another said with a smirk. "He will break under pressure. Humans are soft." Evan heard none of this. Or perhaps he did, and simply chose not to react. His gentle steps, hands folded behind his back, and soft expression made him stand out among the tall, armored, sharp-voiced aliens surrounding him. But it was not fear that shaped his silence. It was something deeper, something he carried inside and never wished to display. He reached the grand throne hall, where Queen Sarilith waited for her future husband. She rose when she saw him enter, her long silver robes flowing across the crystalline floor. Her crown glowed softly, reacting to her heartbeat, which quickened each time she spoke to him. "You arrived early again?" she said, almost surprised. Evan gave a small smile. "I did not want you to wait." Her attendants exchanged looks. This human always spoke gently to their queen. Too gently, in their opinion. Most men who wished to marry Sarilith boasted, bragged, or displayed their strength. Evan did none of that. He never boasted about anything. Sarilith stepped closer, studying his calm face. "The court continues to question our union." "I know," Evan replied simply. "You do not seem bothered." "I'm not." He paused. "They will understand me in time." His words were peaceful, not defensive. He did not try to prove himself, nor did he show the smallest hint of resentment. Sarilith found this quality rare and strangely comforting. When she first chose him as her diplomatic husband, she had known he was different from other humans. He carried a quiet confidence, something she could sense but not yet understand. She liked that he didn't try to impress her. He didn't try to impress anyone. He simply existed with a gentle certainty that made her curious, but curiosity did not silence the voices of the nobles. As the two approached the ceremonial platform for their bonding ritual, the hall darkened. Hundreds of glowing crystals floated around them, responding to the Queen's emotions. Even the palace AI lowered its tone to create an atmosphere of respect. But the moment the ceremony began, a loud booming sound echoed through the hall. The doors flew open. Draxen Kor, a warlord from one of Vorin's warrior clans, marched forward with heavy steps. His armor clanged against the floor, each step deliberately echoing like thunder. Behind him came several of his soldiers, all looking ready for a fight. The Queen let out a soft breath, annoyed. "Draxen, this is a sacred moment. State your reason quickly." Draxen's voice boomed through the hall. "I object to this union. That human is not worthy of you, my queen." Murmurs erupted in the hall. Some nodded in agreement. Others remained silent. Draxen pointed a sharp, clawed hand at Evan. "He is weak. He stands behind you like a frightened servant. He does not deserve to be bonded to the ruler of Vorin." Evan did not flinch. His expression stayed calm, almost thoughtful. Sarilith stepped forward. "I chose Evan because of his mind and his heart. You will not insult him during this ceremony." But Draxen laughed loudly. "Mind? Heart? Those things do not protect an empire. Only strength does." The Queen narrowed her eyes. "My decision stands." "Then I challenge him," Draxen declared. The hall fell silent. Even Sarilith froze for a moment. "You challenge him?" "Yes," Draxen growled. "A trial by ordeal. Let the entire empire see whether he is worthy." This tradition was ancient. If someone doubted the ability or honor of a chosen partner, they could demand a physical challenge before the union. It rarely happened, and almost never to a queen. The challenger usually needed a strong reason. Draxen believed he had one. The queen refused immediately. "Evan is not trained like you. He is a peaceful man. I will not allow you to harm him." But before she could say more, Evan stepped forward, not forcefully, but with gentle confidence. "It's all right," he said softly. "Let him challenge me." Saralith's eyes widened, and the room filled with shock. "You accept?" she asked, her voice low. "I accept," Evan answered. "If this will ease the doubts of your people, then I will face him." Draxen grinned, pleased. The nobles whispered excitedly. They expected a humiliation. Evan looked too calm, too fragile in comparison to the towering warlord. "You will regret this, human," Draxen said. Evan simply nodded once. "We will see." The queen grasped Evan's arm, pulling him aside. "Evan, you cannot fight him. He is a trained warrior. You are a diplomat." "I know," Evan said gently. "But I also know that avoiding this will make things worse for you." He looked directly into her eyes with quiet sincerity. "Trust me, I will be all right." His calmness was contagious, though she didn't understand how. After a long pause, she exhaled sharply. "Very well. But I will stop the challenge the moment you are hurt." He didn't argue. "Thank you." The trial was set for the next morning in the grand arena, a massive structure carved from crystal and metal. When Evan arrived, thousands of spectators filled the seats. Many came expecting to see the queen's new husband defeated quickly. Some came hoping he would prove himself. Most came simply for entertainment. Evan walked alone across the arena floor, wearing simple clothes with no armor. He carried no weapons. His posture remained relaxed, hands at his sides, eyes calm. Draxen entered with full ceremonial armor, heavy plates covering his body, sharp gauntlets, and a long spear. He lifted his weapon toward the crowd, earning cheers. Saralith sat above in the royal booth, her expression tense. She kept her hands clasped tightly in her lap, unable to hide her worry. Her guards stood around her, ready to intervene if the queen ordered it. When the signal horn blew, Draxen charged forward with a roar. Evan merely stepped aside. It was so simple, so clean, that the crowd didn't react at first. Draxen's spear hit empty air. He skidded across the crystal floor, sparks flying. He turned, eyes narrowing. "You dodge well for a weakling." Evan didn't answer. Draxen lunged again. Evan moved again, this time faster. He slid under the spear, placed a hand on Draxen's armored elbow, and pushed lightly. The warlord stumbled, almost falling. Gasps echoed through the arena. The queen leaned forward, eyes widening with surprise. She had never seen Evan move like that. There was grace in his steps, precision in his timing, not the movements of a frightened man, the movements of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Draxen growled and swung a heavy punch. Evan ducked, then tapped the warlord's wrist. The strike missed. Tap, dodge, tap, sidestep. The audience began to realize something shocking. Evan was not panicking. Evan was not struggling. Evan was not even angry. He looked calm, almost too calm. Draxen's swings grew wild. He attacked with everything he had, his armor clattering loudly with each missed strike. Evan kept moving like water around stone, flowing, shifting, redirecting force without using any force of his own. The queen stared, stunned. Finally, Draxen thrust his spear straight at Evan's chest with a roar. The crowd gasped. Evan caught the spear, with one hand. The arena fell silent. Evan gently twisted the weapon, disarming the warlord. Then he placed the spear on the ground beside him and stepped back, giving Draxen a moment to recover. His voice remained soft. "Yield." Draxen refused and charged with his bare fists. Evan sighed quietly, stepped forward, and used a single controlled motion to sweep Draxon's legs from under him. The warlord crashed onto his back, armor ringing loudly. Evan placed one foot lightly against Draxon's chest. Not enough to harm, but enough to hold him down. "Yield," Evan repeated, calm as ever. This time Draxon could not deny what had happened. He raised his hand in surrender. The arena erupted into stunned murmurs. Some spectators cheered. Others stared in disbelief. The Queen exhaled slowly, her heart pounding. She looked at Evan with new eyes, seeing something she could not understand. Evan stepped away from Draxon, bowed respectfully to him, and then walked toward the Queen's booth. His steps were unhurried, his breathing steady. It was as though he had simply taken a peaceful walk through a garden. When he reached her, he bowed again. "The challenge is finished." Sarilith rose, unable to hide the shock in her voice. "Evan, who are you really?" He smiled faintly. "Someone who prefers peace over showing strength." She stared at him, knowing that behind his quiet nature lay something far more complex than modesty, something he chose to hide. Before she could question him further, an urgent alarm rang across the arena. A messenger rushed forward, bowing deeply. "My queen, our border system has been attacked. Unknown ships, heavy assault. We need your command immediately." The queen turned to Evan, expecting him to stay behind. But he looked at her and spoke softly. "I will accompany you." And this time, no one doubted him. The battle alert spread through the palace like a sharp gust of wind. Crystals along the walls turned red, humming with warning vibrations. Queen Sarilith moved quickly toward the transport platform, her guards rushing around her. Evan followed only a step behind. Quiet but steady, his expression unchanged since the challenge with Draxon. Sarilith kept glancing at him as they walked. She had seen many warriors in her life, some fierce, some aggressive, some arrogant. But Evan's calmness remained the most unsettling thing she had ever encountered. Not because it frightened her, but because she felt she still did not truly understand him. When they boarded the royal shuttle, the pilots bowed and began liftoff. The shuttle rose from the palace tower and shot into the sky with a soft blue trail. Across the window, the twin suns glowed like silver fire. Sarilith finally turned to Evan. "You truly want to come with me? This isn't like the arena. This is war." "I know," Evan answered softly. "It will be dangerous." "I understand. You may be targeted." "That is fine." She stared at him, frustrated by his calm answers. "Evan, I don't want you hurt. You are not trained for our kind of battles." He met her gaze with quiet seriousness. "I can help." There was no arrogance in his voice, no pride, only certainty. She opened her mouth to argue again, but the shuttle AI interrupted. "Queen Sarilith, the royal fleet is ready for your arrival." The queen exhaled slowly. "Evan, you will stay close to me at all times. Do not wander. Do not engage unless necessary." He nodded once. "As you wish." Minutes later, they arrived at the flagship, a massive crystal warship shaped like a blooming star. As they entered the command deck, officers bowed to the queen, though their eyes drifted suspiciously toward Evan. "Why is the human here?" one whispered. "He should stay in safe quarters," another muttered. "He'll panic when the fighting begins." The queen heard every whisper but ignored them. She stepped onto the central platform and activated the holographic display. A three-dimensional map of the border system appeared, glowing with red markers. The enemy was attacking the colony of Pharos 9. Civilians were evacuating while the outpost's small fleet fought desperately to hold the line. Sarilith raised her voice so all could hear. "We go to Pharos 9 at once. All ships prepare for warp shift." The officers hurried into motion. Evan watched silently, hands behind his back, absorbing every detail. Though he said nothing, his eyes were sharp and focused. The queen noticed this. She had never seen him look so intensely aware. The fleet jumped through warp, and when they emerged near Pharos 9, the view was chaotic. Explosions lit the darkness. Enemy ships, sleek metallic crafts with glowing red engines, fired beams at Vorin defense vessels. Wreckage drifted through space. Civilians escaped in small pods, chased by hostile fighters. The moment they arrived, the enemy noticed them and redirected fire. The ship shook violently as warning lights flashed. "Shields at 80%, an officer shouted. "Enemy interceptors approaching fast. Redirect power to the forward cannons." The Queen kept her voice calm. "Hold formation. Continue shielding the evacuation pods." Then she looked to Evan. "Stay behind me. I mean it." He nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on the screens, analyzing patterns of movement. His posture had changed slightly, straight, centered, almost alert, but still without panic. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Boarders incoming! Enemy breaching on decks 4, 5, and 11. The Queen's eyes widened. "How did they reach this ship so quickly?" "Unknown technology, my Queen," an officer replied. "They bypassed our detection field." Sarilith turned to her guards. "Secure the command deck. Protect the control stations." Before she could give further orders, the doors at the back of the deck exploded inward. Smoke filled the air as metallic enemy soldiers marched through, their armor glowing with red symbols. They carried advanced shock rifles, aimed directly at the Queen. The guards reacted instantly, shields raised. The officers screamed and ducked behind consoles. Sarilith reached for her energy staff, ready to defend herself, but Evan stepped forward first. Sarilith grabbed his arm. "Evan, no!" He gently removed her hand. "I won't let them reach you." He walked toward the enemy soldiers with steady steps. The aliens hesitated for a moment, surprised by the unarmed human approaching them. One aimed his weapon. "Stand down, human." Evan did not answer. The soldier fired. A bolt of red energy shot toward him, but Evan moved with speed no one on the deck had ever seen. He ducked under the shot and closed the distance in a heartbeat. His movements were smooth, sharp, and impossibly precise. He struck the soldier's wrist, knocking the weapon away, then swept his legs out from under him. The soldier hit the ground hard. The deck fell silent in shock. Even Sarilith forgot to breathe. Another soldier fired. Evan sidestepped effortlessly and leapt forward, landing a controlled strike to the enemy's chest plate. The armor cracked, and the soldier collapsed. The remaining intruders panicked and charged as a group. Evan moved like a whisper of wind. He ducked, rolled, and spun with flawless balance. He struck pressure points on their armor, disabling joints. He tore rifles from hands and tossed them away. His hands moved faster than the soldiers could track. He fought without anger, without shouting, only calm focus. The guards watched, stunned, as Evan took down soldier after soldier. Within moments, 6 heavily armed intruders lay unconscious on the floor. Evan brushed dust off his sleeves, breathing lightly as though he had jogged a short distance. The Queen stared at him as though seeing him for the first time. Her voice was soft, filled with disbelief. "Evan, this is impossible. Humans do not move like this." He glanced at her but said nothing. Before she could ask more, another explosion shook the ship. More enemies were boarding in other sections. The Queen gave quick orders, but her eyes kept drifting back to Evan. The battle outside grew worse. Enemy cruisers pushed closer to the evacuation pods. The flagship fired its cannons, but the enemy technology resisted far more than expected. Sarilith made a harsh decision. "We cannot just defend. We must disable their command ship." Officers hesitated, fear in their eyes. "My Queen, our weapons may not be enough." Evan stepped beside her. "I can help." She turned sharply. "No, you have helped enough. You will stay safe." "You need to disable their main shield generator," he said simply. "I can reach it." "You don't even know the layout of their ship." "I understand enough." Sarilith shook her head. "I will not send you into danger without backup." "You are not a soldier." He looked into her eyes, calm as ever. "I don't want to be a soldier, but I will act when I must." Before she could argue again, a sudden tremor hit the ship. A massive enemy mech landed on the outer hull, drilling its way inward. The hull groaned as metal tore. Officers screamed. Guards rushed toward the emergency barrier field. Sarilith activated her staff. "Everyone brace yourselves!" The mech burst through, glowing with red plasma. It stood over 15 feet tall, with heavy armor and rotating cannons. It roared mechanically, then locked onto the Queen. The guards fired at it, but their blasts bounced harmlessly off its plated hide. The mech began charging a massive plasma shot aimed directly at the Queen. Evan stepped in front of her without hesitation. "Evan!" she shouted, fear gripping her. But he did not stop. As the mech fired, Evan sprinted forward with impossible speed. The plasma beam shot past him and scorched the walls behind, missing the Queen by inches. Evan leapt onto the mech, gripping the armor plates with his bare hands. He moved with precision, sliding between gears and pistons. The mech tried to shake him off, but he remained steady. He reached the core panel, ripped it open, and jammed his arm inside. Sparks flew as he twisted the power conduits. The mech shuddered violently, then collapsed with a loud crash, smoke pouring from its joints. Evan landed lightly beside it, unharmed. Silence filled the command deck. Everyone stared. The Queen placed a hand on her chest, trying to slow her breath. She whispered, "Evan, how?" He looked at her calmly. "Are you hurt?" "No," she said, her voice trembling. "Because of you." The ship AI spoke suddenly. "Enemy command vessel preparing heavy strike. They are targeting the evacuation pods." Sarilith clenched her jaw, then turned to Evan. This time she did not stop him. "You said you can reach their shield generator." "Yes." "Then I ask you to guide a strike team. Disable their shield so we can protect our people." Evan nodded, already moving toward the equipment rack. Sarilith watched him as he picked up a simple utility belt. Not weapons, not armor, just tools he seemed to understand instinctively. She felt a strange mix of fear and fascination. This gentle, quiet man she married was someone far more capable than she had ever imagined. As he approached the exit, she called out softly, "Evan, please return safely." He paused, looked over his shoulder, and gave a small, warm smile. "I will." And then he disappeared into the corridor, moving with the confidence of someone who had faced danger many times before. The Queen stared at the empty doorway, her heart racing. The modest man she married was not modest at all. He was extraordinary. Evan moved through the warship corridors like someone who had walked them 100 times before. The alarms blared, the walls trembled from distant impacts, and the lights flickered as systems struggled to hold together, but none of it shook his focus. Behind him, a small strike team followed, 6 elite Vorin soldiers chosen by the Queen herself. They watched the human with confused and uncertain expressions. He looked too calm, too steady, too sure of his path. One of the soldiers whispered to another, "Does he even understand how dangerous this mission is?" Another replied, "He defeated a full war mech with his bare hands. I don't think he feels fear like we do." The leader of the group, a tall alien woman named Ryla, raised her voice. "Human Evan, I need to know your plan. The enemy ship has unknown defenses. How do we get inside?" Evan scanned a holographic blueprint on his wrist console, his voice quiet but clear. "Their shield generator is located deep in the lower deck. They have a maintenance port on the belly of the ship. We can attach a boarding capsule there." Ryla frowned. "That port is heavily guarded, and their hull is reinforced with Stargrade alloy." Evan met her eyes calmly. "I know. I will open the route. You will follow behind and hold the position while I disable the generator." "You?" Ryla blinked. "Alone?" He only nodded. The soldiers exchanged worried glances. But they did not argue. Something about Evan's confidence made even seasoned fighters listen. They entered the boarding hangar where a small capsule waited. The hangar staff looked shocked to see the Queen's consort preparing for a combat infiltration. "Is that human joining the mission?" one muttered. "He's leading it," another whispered, disbelief in every word. Ryla motioned her team inside the capsule. Evan followed last, sealing the hatch with a soft click. The capsule detached from the flagship and shot toward the enemy vessel at high speed, its engines humming softly. Through the window, the battlefield expanded before them, ships clashing, beams cutting across the blackness of space, debris drifting like broken stars. Ryla looked anxious. "We only get one chance at this." Evan nodded. "One is enough." The capsule slammed into the enemy hull. A burst of sparks flew as the drill locked in place. Metal groaned and tore until a small circular doorway formed. Evan stepped forward before anyone else. The soldiers raised their weapons, preparing for a firefight. But Evan held up a hand. "Stay behind me. Do not shoot unless necessary." Ryla hesitated. "But, trust me," he said gently. The door burst open, revealing a dim corridor glowing with red emergency lights. Enemy soldiers rushed in from both sides, firing immediately. The strike team tensed, raising their rifles. But Evan moved first. He charged into the corridor with impossible speed. Laser bolts tore through the air, but he slipped between them, ducking, spinning, sliding with grace that did not belong to any ordinary human. He reached the first soldier and struck the man's rifle with a palm so precise it shattered the weapon's power core. He swept the soldier aside with one motion, knocking him into two others. The strike team watched, stunned. Ryla whispered, "Is he even human?" Evan dropped low, dodging another volley of shots. He moved like flowing water, smooth, unstoppable. He disarmed a second enemy, then used the stolen rifle as a lever to flip another soldier into the wall. He never struck to injure more than needed. Every movement was controlled, efficient, and strangely gentle for someone in battle. Within seconds, the corridor fell silent. The enemies lay unconscious, weapons scattered. Evan turned to the team. "This way." The soldiers didn't question him again. They followed quickly, stepping over the fallen intruders. As they moved deeper into the ship, the enemy resistance thickened. More soldiers arrived, some carrying heavier weapons. The team fired now, unable to keep up with the speed of the attacks. Explosions shook the floor. One soldier was nearly hit by a plasma blast before Evan pulled him aside with ease, saving him without even glancing back. Ryla observed him carefully. "Human Evan. How did you learn to fight like this? What are you?" He didn't answer as he opened a maintenance hatch. Later. They slid inside a narrow passage, crawling through cables and glowing cooling rods. When they emerged on the other side, they reached a long platform overlooking the enemy's shield generator. It pulsed like a giant blue heart, massive, bright, and surrounded by guards. Energy flowed from it into the ship's shield grid, protecting the entire fleet. Ryla whispered, "There are too many enemies. We need a full attack unit, not just 7 of us." Evan studied the generator quietly. "You will hold this platform. I will disable it." Ryla stared at him. "Alone?" He nodded. She grabbed his arm suddenly. "Human Evan, this is suicide. Even you cannot fight an entire squad alone." Evan looked at her with calm eyes. "I don't intend to fight them all." "Then how?" He pointed toward the cooling conduits. "Their generator is unstable. If I overload the regulator valve, the shields will drop." "How do you know that?" Ryla demanded. He simply said, "Because I've seen this technology before." The soldiers exchanged astonished looks, but the urgency of the moment pushed questions aside. Evan leapt down from the platform with silent grace, landing behind a support beam. The guards patrolled the area, unaware of his arrival. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. When he opened them, his movement changed once again. Faster, sharper, almost inhuman. He slid from shadow to shadow, disabling guards with silent strikes. He never let a body fall loudly. He never wasted a movement. He reached the valve in less than a minute, but the instant he touched it, a heavy thud echoed behind him. A massive armored enemy captain landed from an upper platform, towering over Evan with glowing red armor plates. "You," the captain growled, "the human who destroyed the mech." Evan slowly turned toward him. The captain raised a heavy plasma blade. "You won't disable our shield. You will die here." Evan didn't answer. He lowered his stance slightly. Then the captain swung. The blade sliced through the air with lethal force. Evan leapt aside, the blade missing him by a breath. The captain swung again, faster this time, but Evan ducked under and struck the man's shoulder joint, making sparks fly. The captain roared and charged. Evan slid beneath him and struck the power conduit on the captain's armor. The armor flickered, weakening. The strike team watched from above, amazed. Ryla whispered, "He's fighting a fully armored captain with no weapons." The captain attacked again, wildly now. He slammed his fist into the floor, causing a shockwave that threw Evan backward. Evan crashed into a pillar, but he stood up calmly, brushing dust from his shirt. His breathing remained even. The captain growled, "You fight like a machine." "No," Evan said softly. "I fight because I must." The captain lunged again, but this time Evan was faster. He rolled forward, twisted behind the enemy, and struck 3 fast blows along the captain's spine. The armor sparked violently. The captain stumbled, stunned. Evan ended the fight with a precise kick to the back of the captain's knee. The giant fell forward, crashing to the ground. The platform shook. Evan looked up to the strike team. "Cover me!" Ryla shouted orders. "Fire on the incoming guards!" Evan tore open the valve panel and began manipulating the circuits inside. His hands moved with expert precision, as though he were working on familiar machinery. The generator began to glow brighter. Ryla saw dangerous readings. "Evan, stop! You'll make it explode!" He didn't look up. "I know." "Then why are you—" "It must overload," he said calmly. "But I will control the explosion's direction." The generator surged. Power jolted through the room. Sparks flew everywhere. The team fired at the remaining guards, keeping them away from Evan as he worked. Suddenly, the entire ship shook violently. The Queen's voice came through the comm. "Evan! What is happening?" "Shield will drop in 10 seconds," he answered. Ryla stared at him, wide-eyed. "How do you know that?" Evan pulled 2 energy conduits apart. The generator roared in response. "Because I designed something similar once." The generator blazed bright blue, then a massive shockwave burst downward, not outward, exactly as Evan had predicted. The shield grid flickered, then collapsed entirely. The Queen's fleet immediately reacted. Cannons fired. Missiles launched. Cheers erupted across the comms as the enemy shields vanished. Ryla and her team looked at Evan, stunned. "You did it!" He stepped away from the sparking panel, calm despite the violent tremor beneath his feet. "We have to leave. The ship will not survive long." The team followed him back through the corridor, retreating to the extraction point. Enemy soldiers tried to stop them, but Evan moved like he was clearing a path through shadows. He disarmed attackers, redirected blasts, and guided the team with quiet certainty. By the time they reached the capsule, the enemy command vessel was already breaking apart. They launched the capsule just as the ship exploded behind them, lighting up the darkness with a bright burst of energy. When the capsule docked with the Queen's flagship, Sarilith stood waiting. She rushed forward the moment the hatch opened. Her eyes widened with relief. "Evan, you're safe." He nodded politely. "Yes." The strike team stepped forward, staring at him with deep respect. Ryla bowed. "My queen, your consort is not what he seems. He moves like a master warrior. He understands enemy technology better than any of us. If he had not been with us, we would not have survived." Sarilith looked at Evan, her voice soft with awe. "Who are you really, Evan?" Evan looked down, silent for a moment. Then he answered quietly, "Someone who tried to leave his past behind." The silence inside the royal command chamber felt different this time. There was no alarm, no emergency alert, no enemy soldiers trying to break through the doors. Only a quiet tension filled the air, as if the whole ship was waiting to exhale. After the long battle at the border system, the fleet was finally safe. The wounded had been treated, the damaged ships were under repair, and the enemy had retreated far beyond the system's edge. The danger was over, but the questions were not. Queen Sarilith stood near the central viewing screen, her eyes fixed on the stars. The faint blue nebula outside glowed softly through the glass. Her mind was restless. She could not forget what she had seen. Evan fighting with impossible speed, taking down machines that even elite soldiers struggled to approach, protecting the ship with a calmness that no ordinary human should have. She heard quiet footsteps behind her, the same careful and respectful steps she always recognized. Evan stopped a short distance away, waiting for her to speak first. He always did that. Even after everything, he still carried himself like a man who wanted to avoid attention. She turned to him slowly. "Evan," she said, her voice steady but warm, "I think I have asked you this question before, but now, after what happened, I need the full truth. Who are you really?" Evan did not look surprised. It was as if he had expected this moment from the start. He walked closer, stopping beside her. His expression was calm, not defensive, not worried, just honest. "I never lied to you," he said quietly. "But I did keep things hidden. Not because I wanted to deceive you, only because I wanted a simple life." Sarilith watched him closely. "A simple life," she repeated, "from a man who can break armored machines with his bare hands?" Evan smiled slightly, a small, humble smile that did nothing to hide the strength she knew was inside him. "I did not choose my training," he said, "but I chose what kind of man I wanted to be." She waited, letting him speak at his own pace. "When I was young," Evan continued, "Earth was not as peaceful as people thought. There were threats we could not reveal to the wider galaxy. Humans were afraid of what might come one day, something stronger than us, something faster. So certain groups trained a few people to be ready for any disaster. We were taught not only how to fight, but how to survive when all else failed." Sarilith felt her chest tighten. "A secret program," she said quietly. "Something like that," Evan answered. "We were meant to be the last line of defense. If everyone else fell, we were supposed to keep going. But the training was too heavy, too intense. Many left, some stayed. I stayed longer than most." She studied his face. There was no pride there, no arrogance, only sincerity. "So, you are a soldier?" Sarilith said softly. "No," Evan replied. "Not anymore. I walked away from that life because I realized that strength can destroy a person from the inside. I wanted peace. I wanted to be just another man who could live quietly, help others when needed, and not carry weapons every day." Sarilith felt a strange emotion rise in her. It was not fear. It was a deep respect, mixed with something warmer, something that made her heartbeat slow and steady. "And yet," she said gently, "you married a queen of an empire that almost never has peace." Evan's smile returned, a small, helpless smile. "Yes," he admitted softly. "I did not expect that. But I married you because you were kind. You were honest. You did not treat humans like a lesser species, and you gave me something I never had before. Peace in the heart." Her breath caught slightly. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She had power, armies, worlds under her rule, but very few people had ever seen her as a person rather than a throne. Evan had always treated her as a person first. But now, she said, taking a small step toward him, everyone in the Empire knows you are not a simple man. They saw what you can do. They saw who you really are. I did not want to show them, he said quietly, but I had to protect them. Protect you. And you did, she whispered. A soft chime sounded across the room. The doors opened, and General Saikara entered with a respectful bow. She looked serious, but not afraid. Her eyes flicked toward Evan with a new kind of understanding. My queen, Saikara said, the council is requesting your presence. They want to discuss what happened during the battle. Sarilith exhaled slowly. They want to talk about Evan. Yes, Saikara replied. His actions have reached every world in the Empire. Some are calling him a hero. Others are calling him a danger. Many simply do not understand what he is. Evan stood tall but calm. I will go with you if you want, he said to Sarilith. She shook her head. Not yet. The council will question you later. For now, I want to speak for you. Saikara nodded. The council is waiting in the high hall. Sarilith glanced at Evan once more, then walked toward the door. Before stepping out, she placed a hand on his arm and looked into his eyes. Do not worry. You are my husband. I will stand beside you. Evan lowered his head respectfully. And I will stand where you ask me to stand. When the queen left the chamber, Evan stayed behind with Saikara. She studied him carefully before speaking. You know, she said slowly, I used to think humans were fragile, easy to break, easy to defeat. Evan shrugged slightly. Most are, but fragility is not weakness. It teaches humans to adapt. Saikara smiled softly. You are different from the others. I don't want to be different, he said. I just want to live quietly. Saikara's smile grew. With the queen as your wife, quiet will never be possible. Evan sighed, but there was light humor in his eyes. I have learned that. Meanwhile, the queen entered the high hall. The long chamber was filled with council members, nobles, and advisors. They all looked up as she stepped forward. The tension was strong. Some bowed deeply. Others glanced at each other with uncertainty. Councillor Varin cleared his throat. Your Majesty, he began, we must discuss the human, your husband. Sarilith lifted her chin. Evan Hale. Yes, Varin said. His actions have shaken the Empire. He defeated enemy machines single-handedly. He fought like no human we have ever seen. Some worlds are now afraid of Earth. They fear humans are hiding abilities that could threaten the Empire. Sarilith responded with a calm strength. Evan is not a weapon. He is not a threat. He is a protector. Councillor Ralvek frowned. But how can we trust a man whose power we cannot measure? Because I trust him, Sarilith said firmly. And you trust me. The hall fell silent. Her words carried the weight of her crown. Another council member spoke. Your Majesty, we do not doubt your judgment. But the galaxy will react. News is spreading fast. Some empires might challenge us, believing we have allied with a hidden human super soldier. Sarilith took a deep breath. Then they will be corrected. Evan Hale did not fight for glory or power. He fought to protect innocent people. That alone should tell you what kind of man he is. The council members exchanged quiet whispers. The Queen continued. When I married Evan, I believed he was a modest man, a quiet man, a gentle man. And now that I have seen his strength, I realize I was correct. He is all of those things, and more. His modesty is real, his kindness is real, and his loyalty is stronger than any weapon. The hall grew quiet. Some councillors nodded slowly. Others watched with thoughtful expressions. Tomorrow, Sarilith said, I will hold a public address. I will speak for him. I will show the Empire that Evan Hale is not only my husband, but a guardian of peace. The council bowed in agreement. Sarilith turned and left the hall, her steps steady with purpose. When she returned to the chamber, Evan looked up. He had been waiting patiently, his posture relaxed but respectful. "Well?" he asked softly. She walked to him, her eyes bright with emotion. "The council will listen, and tomorrow the Empire will hear the truth." Evan nodded. "I trust you." Sarilith stepped closer. "And I trust you. I married you because you were kind. Now I know you are also strong, but strength without pride is rare, and that is what makes you special." Evan lowered his gaze slightly, not from shame, but from humility. "I never wanted to be special." She smiled gently. "But you are. To me. And now, to the Empire." He breathed out slowly. "Then I will stay by your side, not as a warrior, not as a weapon, but as your partner." Sarilith felt warmth spread through her chest. She placed her hand in his, and for the first time since their marriage, she felt the full certainty that this man, quiet, humble, and unbelievably strong, was the greatest ally she could ever have. Outside, the stars shone across the windows of the ship. The Empire waited for tomorrow, and Evan Hale, the human who once wanted a peaceful life, now stood ready to face a galaxy that was finally beginning to understand the truth. Humans were more than anyone believed, and Evan was living proof of that.